Welcome back to CBS News 24/7, everybody. Glad to have you here. I'm Reed Cowan. So CBS cameras fired up in all of the important rooms where Senate confirmation hearings are happening at this very moment for some pretty key posts in President-elect Donald Trump's cabinet picks. Witnesses for Attorney General nominee Pam Bondi appeared before the Senate Judiciary Committee earlier today. Other Trump picks on Capitol Hill right now: Doug Burgum for Secretary of the Interior, Lee Zeldin for EPA Administrator, Eric Scott Turner for Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, and Treasury Secretary nominee Scott Bessent. Now, here are just some of those moments from inside those Senate chambers.
If we do not fix these tax cuts, if we do not renew and extend, then we will be facing an economic calamity. And as always, with financial instability, that falls on the middle and working class people.
Right now, as far as we know, applies only to the president. And so there's no immunity for Attorney General Bondi if she were to engage in illegal activity or unconstitutional activity in carrying out a directive of Donald Trump. But I think before we even get to that, it would be important for her to make clear that she is not going to direct her department attorneys or the FBI to initiate unfounded investigations.
When energy production is restricted in America, it doesn't reduce demand. It just shifts productions to countries like Russia and Iran, whose autocratic leaders not only don't care at all about the environment, but they use their revenues from energy sales to fund wars against us and our allies. President Trump's energy dominance vision will end those wars abroad.
So just some headlines and some highlights there from those hearings. Let's go live to Capitol Hill and CBS News political reporter Torian Small. Torian, AG nominee Pam Bondi will not say that Donald Trump lost the 2020 election. What is the readout there on Capitol Hill to that newsmaking item, and also some of the other things that are bubbling up here in these confirmation hearings?
Yeah, Reed, it is quite troublesome for Democrats, but it seems to be largely inconsequential to where the votes may land. Some of Bondi's toughest critics, including ranking member Dick Durbin, came out of that hearing yesterday saying that they thought that she held her own throughout that very intense grilling on that, but also on other controversial topics like whether or not she would take the directive of Donald Trump and go after some of his political rivals. To that point, I do want to mention that Bondi said that she is not looking or interested in seeking retribution on behalf of the Republican Party or the incoming president, saying there will be no enemy list in the Department of Justice under her leadership. But I want to circle back to Dick Durbin because I think what he said today is quite instructive. We caught up with him and he said, when asked about Bondi, quote, he thought she was outstandingly impressive, and he said he wouldn't hesitate to hire her to represent his own. So it sounds like there, Reed, that the top Democrat believes that she has a chance and the numbers just might be in her favor.
That will certainly add some influence there as to voting. All right, so also happening today, House Speaker Johnson expected to announce Congressman Mike Turner's replacement for the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. And really, to frame this in time, it comes one day after the House voted him out of that position due to, quote, concerns from Mar-a-Lago. Our very own Scott McFarland caught this moment that we want to show our viewers with him just a moment ago. Let's listen.
That's all it is. It's not a slight in any way to our outgoing chairman, who did a great job under very difficult circumstances. I have nothing but respect for Mike Turner, and not a negative word will ever come from the speaker about that. So.
Did you feel like he was wasn't critical enough in overseeing those agencies?
I gave you my explanation, and that's what it is. So.
That's what it is, but it also sounds like he would very much like to move on. What's the readout there?
So our Margaret Brennan talked to the outgoing Intel chair, Mike Turner, yesterday, and he told her that he was being removed or fired by Johnson because of influence from Mar-a-Lago. So there appears to be a disconnect there. Speaker Johnson, as you just heard right there, seems to be moving the president away from them, keeping him blameless in this, saying that this is now a time for a reset or a refresh of not just the committee, but the Intel community at large. He's saying that Mar-a-Lago Mar-a-Lago didn't have an influence, even though Turner believes that clearly is the case for why he was removed. I will say, though, Democrats are quite unsettled by this development and the influence by Trump. This is what Adam Schiff, who was the former Intel chair when House held the majority in the House, but now he's a senator, this is what he said about it.
I'm just going on what Mr. Turner said about the decision essentially coming out of Mar-a-Lago. But it's clear that Trump's calling the shots in the House of Representatives. There was a time when some of the Republicans speculated about whether Trump should be or could be Speaker. Apparently, he is playing part of that role already.
So Turner is moving on from this. He said in a statement that he's now going to focus his efforts on the House Armed Services and Oversight Committee. So no longer thinking about Intel.
All right, so turning another page, moments from now, Attorney General Merrick Garland will deliver his final farewell address to the Justice Department. Do we have an idea of what he plans to say during that speech?
Well, Reed, I would expect him to kind of mirror or parrot a lot of things that President Biden said in his farewell address, talking about the dangers of weaponization of government. But he'll also have to combat this wave of this incoming administration who painted the department under his leadership as this partisan, biased organization and entity. He's probably going to speak to the fact that he's worked to be as bipartisan or nonpartisan as he possibly can and point out the work that he's done. He was also the lead person over prosecutions when it came to the January 6th attack on the Capitol. So it's likely we could also expect to hear him mention that as well.
Torian Small, thank you so much. CBS News political reporter, always keeping us informed. Have a great day. So a new headline coming to us right now out of the Middle East. A vote in that Gaza ceasefire agreement is set for tomorrow. It's not going to happen today. We just learned moments ago Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's cabinet will carry out that vote. A new development after Netanyahu had previously signaled that they would delay until Hamas walks back new demands. So that is an update where that situation is concerned. But Secretary of State Antony Blinken just wrapped up his last press briefing at the State Department. And at one point, he was interrupted by a heckler about U.S. support for Israel. We have that moment and wanted to let you see it and listen.
Finally, I just wanted to share this morning.
Get your hands off me. Get your hands off me. Get your hands off me. Answer a damn question.
I look forward to answering questions in a few minutes.
You know about Israel's nuclear weapons. Everybody from the ICJ. I was sitting here quietly, and now I'm being manhandled by 2 or 3 people. You pontificate about a free press. You pontificate about a free press. You are hurting me. You are hurting me. You are hurting me. I am asking questions after being told by Matt Miller that he will not answer my questions until I'm asked.
Please, sir, respect the process. We'll have an opportunity to take questions in a few minutes.
Wasn't the point of the May 31st statement to block the ICJ orders? You blocked the ICJ orders.
Please, sir, respect the process. Thank you.
Oh, respect the process. Respect this process. While everybody from Amnesty International. From Amnesty International to the ICJ saying that Israel's doing genocide and extermination, and you're telling me to respect the process. Criminal, why aren't you in The Hague? Why aren't you in The Hague?
So tense here in the United States, but also some tensions in the Middle East. CBS News foreign correspondent Ramy Inocencio joins us now from Tel Aviv. Ramy, this is really just one example of how emotionally charged this conflict has been. Being in Israel right now, what are you hearing from the families of the hostages as we're starting to see what feels like almost a walk back to the surety that this deal can get done?
Right, Reed. Well, listening to the anger and the desperation in that person's voice, here at Hostage Square, there is anxiety and desperation as we have just in the past hour gotten word that Israel's government is going to go ahead with those meetings to push that hostage and ceasefire deal through the approval process tomorrow. But with the hostage families that we have been talking to here at Hostage Square and in the past day since that deal was announced, there is a mix of anxious hope but also fear that this deal still will not get across the finish line. Remember, even though the deal was announced, the deal has not yet been signed, it has not yet been approved. Many people here point out that we've been here before and pointing out that there are so many different points where this could still derail. You know, we thought that we would have the approval from the cabinet ministers today. It did not happen. It's expected to happen tomorrow, and we are now told that the first hostages will now come out on Sunday. Every single day, something is very different, and that has been the reality here for the past 467 days. Here at Hostage Square, you've probably seen it before, but there is a count up clock right around us. It says 467 days. It has been counting up for the whole entire past 15 months. This has been the anxiety that people here in Israel have been living through, and the idea that hopefully allowing themselves to hope is also something fearful because they don't want to do that. But if there was ever a time that they could hope, this is the time that they're allowing them to do that.
Ramy, it's so helpful to have you right there where the news is breaking and playing out in real time. Are you getting a sense of what the sticking points could be that are being discussed behind closed doors today in advance of that anticipated vote tomorrow?
Sure. From Israeli media, not confirmable by CBS News, but from Israeli media, they were talking about an issue regarding the identities of the Palestinian detainees who could be released from Israeli prisons here. The idea here is that Hamas and Israel apparently had agreed that some of these detainees would be off limits, but then the office of the Prime Minister said that instead Hamas was trying to have, in effect, a veto, trying to guide who they could get. My take on that is that it could possibly be a demand of high-value detainees, high-profile detainees who perhaps were past activists, past leaders of Hamas, and who could still be, if allowed out, could then be future militants. That's just my take, but now we know that we are beyond this. The reportable news right now is that the approval process will happen, and we're expecting that to happen tomorrow.
We know you'll be there when it does, and you'll break it right here on CBS News 24/7. Ramy Inocencio, thank you so much for that report. Well, when we see it, you see it here on CBS News 24/7. Breaking news from the FDA. Those of you who've been following the story of those very popular Zyn nicotine pouches, we've got some breaking news about their fate in these United States coming up next. Stay with us. Welcome back, everybody. Glad to have you with us. Though still a threat, winds continue to weaken today in Los Angeles County. It really gives crews another small opening to gain ground in their fight against those deadly wildfires. And day by day, we are starting to see some of those who were evacuated be able to get back in. Those orders lifted just a little bit for those affected areas. Tens of thousands of people, though, still wait to be able to go home to see what's left. Now there are some new worries, the air quality, and of course the safety for those who are going back. So let's take a closer look at the damage seen on our monitors. These areas right here really help bring it to life. Look at the areas in red right there. They represent homes and buildings that were wiped out, just destroyed because of the Palisades wildfire. In fact, that one is the biggest of all of the fires in LA County. So look at the items in red there. All of that is gone. We're also talking about a burn area of more than 37 square miles, if you can get that in your brain. At this hour, that fire is 22% contained. So those areas of red really show you where the damage is, as we realize it could continue to cause damage. Now, moving east to the foothills of Los Angeles, look at this. The Eaton fire eating up 22 square miles of land, heavily populated land at that. So picture that being nearly the size of Manhattan. Crews contained this one to about 55% so far. That could go up with this little break in the wind that we're expecting. LA County officials this morning really detailed in great detail what the beginning steps of the rebuilding process could look like for those who have lost everything.
The rebuilding process will be streamlined. It will be organized as directed by both elected bodies, but particularly the Board of Supervisors have directed me to prepare the Altadena area as if it is a master planned community in which we are redeveloping the entire area. This master planning is already beginning. When I say master planning, what I'm talking about is preparing your properties for you to restore your homes on them. That again involves master planning all the utilities, the water system, the sewer system, and the road system. The first step in that process of development is to remove the debris from the site. As you heard from EPA, they'll take the toxics off. The county, in conjunction with the city, will be doing a debris removal process in which we will work together to safely remove the debris from an environmental perspective and from a site readiness perspective, so that your property will be ready to be rebuilt on properly and orderly.
So let's continue the conversation with CBS News correspondent Elise Preston, who has given us tireless coverage in situations like you're seeing right there behind us. Elise, thank you for joining us. I see you wearing that mask, and that is because everything all around you in Altadena does need to be addressed now from a toxic angle by the EPA.
Yeah, and we heard the officials there saying that the EPA would come in first and clear out these toxic chemicals. They have pledged $100 million. The EPA and FEMA said that that's how much it's going to take for both of them, those agencies, to come through and clear that debris so that families can rebuild. Reed, this house that we're standing in front of today, it was built in 1925. So who knows what's back here? But we do know that the family here lived here for 25 years. They raised their children here. And so what we're hearing from many of these families, that Altadena is so special. There are so many generations that lived in this community. And so people are saying they want to come back, they want to rebuild, they want to return to the community that they know and love. But they recognize that it is going to take a long and tedious process.
And I'm so glad to see you reporting live from Altadena because, you know, a lot of the pictures show us these big mansions that have been burned to the ground. And while we have a heart for everybody who is lost, right, the people of Altadena, they are not your mega millionaire set. And Altadena has a rich and important history. Tell us a little bit more about that history of Altadena and why it's so important that that community gets just as much attention as the communities in the Palisades.
Well, Reed, you asked me this question. This home that I'm standing in front of is actually home of a distant relative. So there's a thread that during the Great Migration, there were so many families. The Great Migration, as we know, that's when 6 million Black Americans moved across the U.S. to start over, to find a better way of life, away from oppressive conditions. Mm-hmm. And so this home belonged to my own relatives who their family members, or our family members, moved out here generations ago. And so that is what we're finding. We're seeing so many people who have been here for generations. There are so many people who have been here. They're living in multi-generational homes. You'll go down a couple blocks this way, and a family that immigrated to Altadena from Costa Rica in the 60s. They lost 7 homes within a matter of seconds because of this fire. So this is a largely Black and brown neighborhood. It's a largely working class neighborhood. There is a concern already, there has been for the last several days, that when you're talking about rebuilding, when you're talking about redeveloping, that gentrification could come into play. So that is a concern. But what we're hearing from these residents is that if they are able to, and when they say if they're able to, they mean financially. Financially, right. If they can come back to this neighborhood, they want to.
Well, and you know, Altadena was seen as safe harbor for all of those people who are important heroes in American history. We hope it can be restored to safe harbor for them as well. I'm grateful to have the conversation with you. I think it's an important conversation to continue. Elise Preston, it's always an honor to join you. And our best to your family members who have lost so much right there behind you. We know they're resilient. We know the rebuild will happen because it's already going on in their hearts. Thank you so much. We've got some big breaking news for anybody trying to stop the habit of smoking. The FDA has okayed the sale of Zyn nicotine pouches. This marks the first time they've approached a nicotine pouch product. Health officials say the pouches help adult smokers cut back on cigarette use. It still has to be authorized by the FDA. Companies have to prove their products reduce illness among adult tobacco users without attracting underage use. This is a headline today. Those nicotine pouches, by the way, will come in 10 flavors, including coffee, mint, and menthol. We know a lot of people depend on those in pouches. Well, video of an injured Pope Francis in a sling. He got injured because of a fall. Now, if you're keeping track, this is the second fall that the Pope has had in recent weeks. Last month, the 88-year-old suffered some bad bruises when he fell against a nightstand. Coming home, a Southwest Airlines plane had quite a bit of drama. Pilot pulled from that plane just before takeoff and booked into jail on a DUI charge. That flight was just about to take off from Savannah, Georgia, headed for Chicago. A source told CBS News pilot David Alsop smelled of alcohol and showed signs of intoxication. When we come back, we have our eyes on President-elect Donald Trump announcing some new special ambassadors, and that list includes some Hollywood celebrities. You're watching CBS News 24/7, streaming coast to coast and worldwide. We're watching these monitors for breaking news until we come back. Keeping the new in news, President Donald Trump just announced a flurry of appointees. We wanted to bring that to you, including envoys to Hollywood. Jon Voight, Mel Gibson, and Sylvester Stallone just named ambassadors to Tinseltown. Mr. Trump says they will help bring business back to Hollywood. So let's go live to Aaron Navarro in West Palm Beach with the latest on this announcement. There has been some criticism that Hollywood is losing business to neighboring Nevada because of taxation laws. So tell us more about these appointments.
Reed, good to be with you. Trump takes it a step further and says that Hollywood has lost business to foreign countries. And that's why he's tapped the three actors you mentioned, Jon Voight, Mel Gibson, Sylvester Stallone, to kind of be his envoys to Hollywood, to report back to him on how to bring back business back to America. He also announced a good amount of other cabinet positions in his administration, including former Congressman Williams of New York as the Undersecretary for Nuclear Security. So a busy morning for Trump, ranging from nuclear security to Hollywood.
Yeah, and we're seeing all of those posts scrolling on the screen right there on social media. I still wonder, does he actually type these himself? Because my thumbs would be tired. Question, a few hours ago, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis announced who's going to take over Marco Rubio's Senate seat as he looks to be headed for confirmation for Secretary of State. So how is Team Trump reacting to Florida Attorney General Ashley Moody's appointment?
We haven't heard yet from the president-elect on Pam Bondi being appointed. We do know just earlier in this process, Laura Trump was in consideration to potentially be appointed. However, sources say that DeSantis and Trump had spoken. You saw Laura Trump eventually withdraw her name, but no official reaction from the president-elect on the new senator in his home state.
All right. Nice to talk to you, Aaron. You have a great day there in West Palm Beach. Tell the rest of our crews hello from CBS News 24/7. Always great to stream with you. So be sure to join CBS Monday, January 20th for the inauguration of Donald Trump. Coverage starts at 9 a.m. Eastern on CBS News and, of course, streaming right here on CBS News 24/7. You know, across the country, voters are gearing up for this new administration, President-elect Donald Trump's second administration. We're boots on the ground, hearing from voters as we inch closer to Inauguration Day. And Skylar Henry is in the battleground state of Georgia right now, talking with voters in Atlanta. Skylar, what's the readout from voters?
It's a mixed bag, Reed. I think based off of who you ask, when you ask them, and just how far around the metro Atlanta area you go, I think you'll get different answers and responses. Some of the people that we spoke with said that, yes, they were concerned about those issues that we've heard for months, the economy, immigration, education, things happening with healthcare. But they also say that they want to bring some decency back to the country altogether. They say that they are tired of the political bickering. They are tired of the partisan fighting and the infighting that we're seeing on Capitol Hill and at the White House. They just want to see more things get done. And they are especially concerned following these natural disasters that we have seen, not only in Los Angeles, but those hurricanes that we saw impact the Southeast, especially hit hard in states like North Carolina, South Carolina, and elsewhere. And they say that they want some civility back in government as well, so that they can do more things to try to work for the people. Take a listen to some of the sound that we were able to grab while speaking with people about the issues.
I'm an independent. I voted for both parties in my day. So, you know, who's in office, to me, who's the best candidate, who's the best person with the best experience, and is a good human being.
I think the free market economy right now is not in a place where it can sustain the tariffs that are being proposed, because so much of what we get is coming in from other countries. It's obviously going to not only hurt our economy, but also hurt our relations with those other countries.
And the interesting thing about that conversation that I had with both of those people that you just heard from there, they're both transplants, so to speak.
Right.
The woman, Alex, recently moved from North Carolina 3 years ago. She still has family up in North Carolina, in particular in Asheville, which is what I was talking about before, and said that she is especially concerned about the federal government dollars that are being brought to that area and that region. And so she said that she wants to make sure that whoever is in office, obviously in this case it's President-elect Donald Trump, make sure that the people in the Tar Heel state aren't forgotten about. But I think it's also incredibly important, Reed, to listen to what Mr. Garrett had to say, who we spoke with right before that, who you heard from, who said that they just want to make sure that whoever is in charge, whether on the federal, state, or local level, gets things done for the people and does so with some civility.
Civility, and it's really fascinating when we get down in communities and we talk to these voters to really see the regionalization of priorities and hear from that viewer from Asheville, North Carolina, about FEMA and recovery. We know that Asheville and Lake Lure and that entire area, Chimney Rock, devastated. Skylar Henry, thank you for tapping in to arguably the most important voices that will be here on this broadcast, and that is the viewer and the voter. Have a great day, friend. When we come back, we're going to focus back on the West Coast to California, where fires have put tens of thousands of people out of their homes. And when they go online to look for a place to rent or even stay temporarily, a lot of them are telling the AG of California, Mr. Bonta, that they're seeing price gouging. A crackdown on that promised by Rob Bonta of the state of California when we come back. Welcome back to CBS News 24/7 in your communities. Look at this. This is new drone video to our monitors that shows this devastating look out of Malibu. You see the homes right there in ruins. This is all along the PCH, or the Pacific Coast Highway. Right now, firefighters are doing what they call a grid search. So they've literally gone to the map and they've drawn a grid, and they're literally going grid by grid looking for people who are still missing, feared dead. So let's talk about the death toll. Right now, it stands at 25. And we know this as tens of thousands of people are displaced, nowhere to go at this hour. The two biggest wildfires, the Palisades fire and the Eaton fire, have burned more than 60 square miles. There is some good news to report right now. Winds are looking like they're going to die down, at least for now. And that gives firefighters a crucial but short window of opportunity to get those containment numbers up. The Palisades fire is at 22% containment. The Eaton fire at 55% containment.
Be assured that our firefighters continue to work 24/7 to achieve full containment of these wildfires as fast as we can. We continue to plan for the repopulation of evacuated areas when safe. The repopulation of residents in the evacuation order areas will not occur for at least one more week for the areas that are deemed safe.
So I have so many friends down there, some who have lost their homes, and I know that they watch forecasters all the time and they listen for two words, red flag. And you say there are still some warnings?
There still are red flag warnings, but interestingly enough, the National Weather Service has been expiring section by section throughout those mountains. We're down to the Santa Susana Mountains as well as the western San Gabriel Mountains right now. So just those hills are still dealing with some gustier conditions, anywhere up to around 50 miles per hour. So we're going to dive into that right now. Zooming into the map, I mean, originally you saw red highlighted all the way down into San Diego County earlier this week. Now it's really isolated, and this is good news for the firefighters out there continuing to battle these fires. Humidity starting to increase as we start to see winds pushing onshore now compared to the offshore winds that are still sticking around in certain pockets of those hills. But heading into the overnight hours tonight, this is just around 5 o'clock, we start to see that develop. And this does a couple things for us. Just along these hills and along these mountains, you'll start to see relative humidity increase, and the winds are dying down significantly too, which is just overall great news. Now, of course, last week we were talking a lot about long-range spot fires with these wind gusts. That was the big concern. You saw video coming out of these communities where you just see embers flying across as fast as possible, and those were the wind gusts that we were experiencing last week and earlier this week, anywhere up to around 70 miles per hour. We advanced the clock into Friday, completely different setup as we head into this weekend. That is a big deal for us. Now we take a look at relative humidity numbers. In the overnight hours, we didn't really get the best recovery process, but now that's starting to change as we head into the overnight hours tonight and tomorrow. These are the same communities that had about 5 to 10% relative humidity just a few days ago. Now as we head into the evening hours tonight, we continue to watch that improve, but we're still under that elevated fire weather outlook throughout all these hills as we head into the overnight hours tonight, just to stay cautious.
Just to stay cautious and save lives, hopefully. Jess, thank you so much.
Yeah.
As we talk about the fallout of the fires and all of the problems, there's another layer of problems to talk about in Los Angeles. And here it is, price gouging. Now think about it. Tens of thousands of people are out of their homes right now, needing housing. They're coming up on the afternoon hours here pretty soon, and they wonder as the sun goes down, where will I stay? California Attorney General Rob Bonta says he is starting to see and is starting to tackle case-by-case price gouging, not only by businesses, but also by landlords who are allegedly jacking up rental prices. Here's what he said.
Price gouging laws are in effect, and you cannot exceed that 10% cap. Since the governor declared a state of emergency on January 7th, DOJ has received hundreds of reports of price gouging. On top of that, we've been sent complaints from our partner agencies. We've seen many posted online and in the media, and we've identified reports through other means. Just yesterday, the LA Times published a story about the very real spike in rent gouging happening in our cities. A 2-bedroom rental that jumped from $5,000 to $8,000, clearly violating the price gouging prohibitions and laws. A single-family home in Venice that jumped nearly 60%, far over that 10% cap. A 5-bedroom home in Santa Monica was listed $15,000 above what they asked last year. A real estate agent even spoke about a client who brazenly ordered her to increase rent above price gouging limits because the demand was too good to pass up and because they doubt there will be prosecution. That client is so very wrong. Today, I'm announcing that DOJ has opened multiple active investigations into price gouging reports, and we will prosecute any crimes we find. We have redistributed and deployed and moved our resources into LA to tackle the price gouging that we're seeing. We have boots on.
California Attorney General Rob Bonta, it's almost mind-blowing to think that people would see that need right there in their own community, and some would choose to take advantage. We'll continue following this one here. CBS News and our Confirmed team will continue to drill down on this. We also want to drill down on a headline from recent days regarding something you may have read about or seen on your social media feeds. A wealthy California couple accused of hoarding water that was badly needed during those tense moments fighting the destructive and deadly California fires. Melissa Matani, who is an executive producer with the CBS News Confirmed team, did a really deep dive on who owns California's water. Watch.
Recent posts alleging that one wealthy LA couple, Stuart and Linda Resnick, own more than half the water in California, are circulating online. Now, the couple own the Wonderful Food Company, a large food producer. Several posts like these allege they've been hoarding water needed for firefighting efforts. But these claims are not true, and here's why. Across California, there are systems called water banks. They're underground reservoirs that collect water during rainier years so that it can be used during periods of drought. The Resnicks own the right to use 57% of the water in the Kern Water Bank, which is located about 150 miles from Los Angeles. Now, the bank can hold up to 500 billion gallons of water for use by farms and some local municipalities. Plus, a spokesperson for the wonderful company told us the Kern Water Bank is one of numerous water sources the Resnicks own the rights to. They say they only tap into it during dry years. However, the key phrase here is water rights. In California, water rights holders don't own the actual water. They own the right to use the water. The city of LA doesn't typically use water from the Kern Water Bank, but it could during a severe drought. Additionally, according to the California Department of Water Resources, if the state felt the water was being wasted or misused, it could revoke access. So how does the water the Resnicks own affect the fires we're seeing today? It doesn't. While there are legitimate questions about the county's preparedness, the fires themselves aren't spreading because LA doesn't have enough water in storage. In fact, California's water department says reservoirs in the south of the state are currently at or above historical averages. The former chair of the California State Water Resources Control Board, Felicia Marcus, believes there are so many fires and they cover such a large part of LA that an urban water system just can't handle the demand. Marcus also told us that, quote, there are issues with the water rights system in California. They're just not related to this fire.
Some super smart researchers there on the CBS News Confirmed team. You know who else is super smart? The people who paid attention in science class. This is a live look right now at NASA's Mission Control. We're watching them because they're watching something amazing taking place in space. If you can listen, they're giving instructions in real time to astronauts doing a live spacewalk. More on that program when we come back.
Copy, understand the config now. You still have a go.
Our CBS News Eye on America keeps us really rooted in our core values and mission, and that is telling your stories from your neighborhoods. Today, our stories take us to Los Angeles. One woman's tale of survival is harrowing. Michelle Gili reports, while running from the flames of the Palisades fire, a firefighter risked his life to save her own. Watch.
I thought I was going to die. I was praying to God to let me die from smoke inhalation, and please don't let me be burned alive.
To try and save her life, Malibu's Patty Phillips raced down the hill last week in Big Rock, blinded by thick smoke and surrounded by fire. Her dog Coda was in the car by her side, but she only got so far.
And I turned on Big Rock, and then the flames came at me everywhere, like a blast of flames and smoke. And I was blinded, and it's total vertigo. You can't see your road. You can't see in front of you. So as I drove up, all of a sudden I'm hitting these rocks, and I stopped my car. And I realized I'm not on our road. So I put it in reverse, which saved my life because I hit that boulder. If I hadn't hit that boulder, I would have rolled down the gully into the fire.
Unaware her car was stuck on a boulder, Phillips called 911, panicked and crying for help. The car would not move. She was trapped. Phillips says she was transferred to another dispatcher who explained getting to her was unlikely. Making things even scarier, Phillips had been separated from her husband, James, who'd already made it safely down to PCH. As she prayed for survival, she sent these heartbreaking texts to him. I love you. I'm in big trouble. I'm stuck. I don't know where I'm at. My car won't move. The fire, and the text ends there. Phillips was worried the tires on her car would melt. Fire and smoke was all around her. She wasn't leaving without her dog. So she laid on her horn, honking to make noise. Patty Phillips told herself, I'm not giving up.
While this is all going on, my husband's down on PCH begging firemen to rescue me. And they're like, we won't go up there. It's too dangerous. And he finds a fireman named Malcolm, who I am trying so desperately to find from the valley, big guy. And he said to my husband had him by the collar, say, please save my wife. And Malcolm says, let's go. And he goes up and he goes, we might not make it, but we'll try.
About a half hour later, Phillips sees a fire truck coming toward her through the black smoke. It was her husband and the firefighter who she only knows as Malcolm.
I go, thank you for saving me. Thank you for saving me. He goes, we still might die. He goes, we're not out of danger. He goes, we still have to get past this fire. And he made it, but he risked his life to save mine. Like, that is a brave man, and he needs a hug from me. He needs to receive an honor like nobody else would come.
Phillips knows she can never repay Malcolm, but she wants to find him to thank him for rescuing her and for saving her life.
Well, we have an update we love to bring you today. Patty Phillips found the name of that very firefighter who jumped in last moment to save her life. His name is Captain Malcolm Dix. She had a FaceTime call with Captain Malcolm. Watch this heartwarming moment.
Hi, Patty. You doing okay? You and your husband okay?
I just need to see you because I'm alive today because of your heroism. And my husband and I are here to know you risked your life, and you need to be honored for that.
Well, there's a lot of other people that are doing the same job and that would have done the same thing. So,
no,
yeah.
No, they wouldn't. People, my husband was down there begging them.
So maintains humility for sure. At this moment, we can tell you Captain Malcolm is boots on the ground, toe-to-toe with the Palisades fire efforts. In fact, right now, he's a part of leading that search and rescue operation on that grid system. We see you and we salute you. Lift off. That is the sound of Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin launching into space its new Glenn rocket. Some things went right and some things went wrong. So New Glenn's first stage booster exploded on its way back down to Earth, attempting landing on a ship in the Atlantic Ocean. However, focusing on the positive here, making it into orbit is still considered by the Bezos team a huge step forward for that company. Always really cool to look at. And another thing to look cool at is a live look right now. We can actually take you up into space. You can see them at that door right now. Astronauts Suni Williams and Nick Hague are wrapping up a 6-hour spacewalk, about to come back into the space station. Dinner is due. Dinner is going to be served, but they first have to come through that door, and we're hoping we can see them open that door after they've been outside for so many hours on that spacewalk. By the way, this is Williams' first spacewalk since arriving at the International Space Station more than 7 months ago. Today, both astronauts were out there repairing all kinds of things outside of that spacecraft. Wow, they're literally defying gravity. Pretty cool. Meanwhile, a historic moment in space history captured on a home's Ring camera. You've got to not only watch this, but listen to it. So, to set the stage, experts from the University of Alberta say a meteorite fell from space. It landed right outside the door of a home on Prince Edward Island, Canada. Now, keep an eye on the bottom right-hand corner of this video we're about to show. You're going to see the meteor hit, but also you're going to hear it. Let's roll it. Oof, and there goes. That is what happened when a person logged onto their Ring camera and they saw that there was a delivery at home. It was not UPS, it was not the USPS, it was outer space. Thanks so much for watching CBS News 24/7. The news continues. After this break, we're continuing watching the spacewalk come to an end too.